r/AskReddit by Redmond Dietes. What are some dark psychology facts you know? A depressed psychologist decided to study depression in animals. He created an experiment called the Pit of Despair. Baby monkeys who had bonded with their mothers were put into a lightless steel cage with sloping sides so they couldn't easily move or entertain themselves. They were fed and watered remotely so they didn't even interact with the researchers. Within days they stopped moving completely. Some were alone in the dark for up to a year. Several starved themselves to death. When reintroduced to other monkeys they couldn't function and were bullied and incapable of sexual relations. To see what sort of mothers they would be, he made a monkey rape setup because artificial insemination hadn't been invented. The monkeys subjected to this were cruel beyond imagining. One sat on its child's head and chewed its limbs off. Every monkey subjected to this was broken, and this research went on for decades. It produced no new scientific value beyond being an example of why researchers need ethical review of their work. There was a kid who lost his penis after an accident. Instead of just continuing life as a male missing a part of his body, a psychologist told his parents he should be raised as a girl. The psychologist's motivation for this was the fact that the boy had a twin brother, so a set of twins being born male and then one being raised as female and one being raised as male would provide a control child to compare to the child who was raised as a girl. What ended up happening is that the child was given an artificial vagina and raised as female against his will. The child was also given female hormones against their will, which led to the creation of breasts. Then the child came out at 14 years old and had their artificial vagina removed and identified as a male again. Both of the twins had a lot of mental health issues and both died in their 30s. One of an overdose of antidepressants, one of suicide by shotgun. It's very sad and needless. A psychologist messed up an entire family's life so he could have an experiment. I feel sick just typing out the details of it. The doctor also made the boys have weird pseudo-sexual interactions with each other. Total POS, bottom rung of hell type stuff. A classic would be Milgram's experiments proving a lot of people would administer fatal electric shocks to others just because an authority figure instructs them to. There has been some criticism of his research, but the basic outcome could be replicated. Kind of makes me think of the Stanford prison experiment. As I recall, the Stanford prison experiment didn't happen exactly as people think. From what some had said afterwards, the guy running it actively encouraged cruelty towards the prisoners. Also, whenever he wasn't around it was pretty chill. They apparently just hung out and got high when he wasn't there to oversee it. The only reliable and recurring measures of happiness are natural predisposition, advancement of goals, improvement in circumstances. Everything else tends to either fall under one of these categories or be a blip in measurement. So yes, some people are just happier than others and that's it. Also, no matter how good things get, everyone will always want more. This makes a certain amount of sense. If we were psychologically programmed to be happy when we had enough, then the cavemen with warm caves and enough to eat would have just stopped there and never tried rolling the round stones around. The one that messes with me the most is the bystander effect. Basically, the more people witness an event that calls for intervention, accident, fight, etc., the less likely it is someone will intervene. But the bright side of this is you can control this scenario very easily. Start pointing at random people and giving them tasks. They will pretty much always do what you tell them to do, within reason. I remember learning this in CPR classes. In 2014, conservationist Damian Aspinall attempted to reintroduce a family of gorillas to a wildlife reserve. He transported the gorillas to River Island in the reserve for them to get used to the area, and then when they were ready, provided them with a bridge to access the main body of the reserve. Near the bridge nested a silverback gorilla named Baumanga, who had no partner or children. Nearby was another silverback with a large family of several wives and 20 or more children. Both of these are unusual. Gorillas normally divide mates between them. Aspinall thought that Baumanga might attempt to peel off some of the female gorillas from the newly introduced family on the island, which would be a good thing. Instead, by Aspinall's account, Baumanga crossed the bridge and beat the newly arrived female gorillas to death, dumping the bodies in the jungle and seriously battering the male of the group. This is not supposed to be a thing that gorillas do. Ever. There are multiple theories about what actually happened, and Aspinall later admitted that they were never completely sure about what had happened. But if this is actually true, then Baumanga just became the first non-human incel serial killer. And if there's a natural precedent for that to happen, that puts it in a hugely different light. All the certainty that people use in talking about brain chemistry is BS. We know that the presence of certain chemicals causes behavioral changes, and that we can manipulate those chemicals through drug therapy. That's about it. We don't know why it works, we just know that it does. Most of the time. Except when it doesn't. Philip Zimbardo, the guy who ran the Stanford prison experiment, rigged it to get the results he wanted. It's basically useless and the results have never been replicated. Trauma is multi-generational. There's only one very small part of the brain that takes away or increases empathy. One bad knock on that part of the brain and you're a psychopath. Very simple, but I would argue the most frightening. We are all just one bad day away from complete psychosis, meaning all bets are off on what you believe and what you are willing to do. If someone is having a psychotic break or episode, you say something completely strange and stupid. It will often shock them out of whatever is happening. For example, I'm having a breakdown. Did you get clearance from the city? Stare at people's foreheads to make them nervous. It's pretty dark how well propaganda works and how we are constantly surrounded by it. Our beliefs and behavior are manipulated by PR firms for huge corporations. And there is nothing we can do about it. Conversion therapy. I remember in AP Psych that a church or some religious group tried to convert a homosexual by electrocuting his penis if he got erect to gay porn. It didn't convert him, but it definitely left the man scarred. Not secrets, but electric shock therapy, lobotomies, neutering the mentally handicapped, that Freud and Jung were ever taken seriously. EECT has been shown to be a valid therapy. It shouldn't be used like they used to use it, but it's good for some disorders. Yet CCT is still a valid therapeutic intervention. Big difference now is that the patient is sedated, so the procedure is not as traumatic as it was back in the 60s. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.